Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Focus. This morning, we're very fortunate to have with us an exemplary person, Judith Rae Ross, PhD, Chicago Liaison Royalty of the Ring, and also the Midwest Political Strategist, Traditions and Hope Incorporated. Good morning, Mrs. Ross.
Good morning, Dr. Brooks. Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Yes, we're very happy that you've taken time from your very busy schedule to be with us on Community Focus this morning. You are a person that Lake County should know. Lake County is approximately, about 750 and approaching 800,000 people. But I don't know how many up at 5 o'clock this Sunday morning listen to the program, but I understand it's growing. We have a pretty good audience, especially because of Community Focus. Tell us, though, we're going to be talking about Royalty of the Ring, and I'm anxious to learn, along with my many guests, about the boxing career, especially when women are involved. I remember, I think it was Muhammad Ali, his daughter was involved in, maybe she's still boxing.
I believe she is, and there's another daughter also involved in some of the boxing business, although I'm not sure quite in what capacity.
Right. Well, we're going to find out from you all there is to know. But first of all, tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background.
Okay. I started out life as an academic, politician, and a journalist. And I've taught for about 51 years before I decided it was time to hang up the chalk. I announced all and sundry, I'm retiring. That's it. No more midterms, no more finals, no more people with the office door closed and horrific personal experience. Teacher is done. I'm retired. Well, that lasted 6 weeks when I was asked to teach at a religious school. And then after that, I got involved in activities. And one of the things I did was advise the two gentlemen who I now work for, one on life in Poland since he was going there and I had been there, and the other one on what the political layout is in this area. And lo and behold, the first one sent me a contract that ended being retired, and I'm his executive assistant at the Sivan Corporation. And about 3 weeks later, the other gentleman called and said, I need a Midwestern political strategist. You're it. So I'm it. So that's how I got involved in this career. Royalty of the Ring was a project that originally crossed the media desk. And it's a great children's program, children and teens, young adults, program using boxing as a means of, eye contact, competition. Boxing is one of the oldest sports in the world. It actually was on the menu of the first Olympic Games. I'm talking about the ones on the bottom of Mount Olympus here. Okay. And it's always been a very good and useful sport because it develops self-confidence, it develops some of the mathematical and biological skills, and it develops communication. It's gotten a bad name, a famous movie, I Could Have Been a Contender type thing. Okay. But it shouldn't be taken out on the sport. The sport's a good sport and a great sport for children to learn. It's helpful in later life. Of course, I'm talking about proper gear and what have you and practicing good sportsmanship here. But that's how I got involved with Royalty of the Ring. I'm doing my best to implement the program, and the good city of North Chicago is very interested. We have a letter of intent.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Dr. Judith Rae Ross, Chicago Liaison Royalty of the Ring, which she just mentioned, and we're going to be talking about in detail. She's also Midwest Political Strategist, Traditions and Hope Incorporated. I'd like to mention that she has a PhD at the University of Illinois at Chicago Department of History in 1978. She has an MA at Loyola University of Chicago Department of History in 1971, and a BA, Michigan State University, the Honors College, Department of History in 1967. And I may mention, Ms. Ross, that my daughter graduated from Michigan State University. A little later, though, she was 1979. She was in a class with Magic Johnson.
Oh,
of course,
great.
he left in 79. He's doing for basketball, greater things, but she stayed and finished. So Michigan State is, found myself still rooting for Michigan State, and especially in NCAA basketball when they just didn't quite make it, to the finals there. But tell us about Royalty of the Ring. You mentioned about boxing. Now, everyone got their money's worth, I guess, the past weekend, and when Floyd Mayweather, he will net nearly, $200 million?
$200 million, and it's still growing.
It's still growing because of the reports that are not coming from cable and others, And it wasn't a real good night for him. I mean, he kind of coasted all the way through, got a unanimous decision.
He got a unanimous decision, but, we don't know what the judges voted it on for. And it was interesting. I'm not sure of the station, but it was one of the cable stations. When they talked about Mayweather winning the match, they showed a scene where Pacquiao was boxing the living daylights out of him, and Mayweather had his hands in front of his face. So I'm not sure that every judge or every viewer quite agreed. On the other hand, he is now 49 or 48-0, I believe. He'll take one more fight to 49-0, and I'm kind of guessing, even though he says he won't do it, he's going to want to break that record and go 50-0.
Tell us about your visit to North Chicago. I met you a few weeks ago at the North Chicago City Council, and you made a presentation about your interest in boxing. Why North Chicago?
First of all, it's a suburb, but not so close to Chicago that it's literally inhaled. Secondly, it's a nice area with good people. And I know some people in North Chicago. And third, we selected places where we thought a youth program might be welcomed. I didn't walk in the door that night. Au contraire, I wrote a letter stating exactly what we wanted to do. I had a meeting with the mayor, Mayor Rockingham, who has been most helpful. And then he said, we need to present it to the city council. And he asked me to come and make that presentation that you saw to the committee of a whole. And I found out that they're all very interested in possibly implementing this program. And it would be an easy program to implement. Takes a room with a boxing ring. They have coaches already, and I believe there are former fighters in the area who could certainly coach. We'll make sure that the kids are protected, and it's not encouraged as much, unfortunately. I don't hear as much about it today. And when I grew up, sportsmanship was important. If you lost, you congratulated the winner with a good heart, and if you won, you said something nice to the person you beat. You didn't rub it in, and that's important.
Yes, a few years ago, just recently, we had a Mr. Edwin Ford, who's a manager in boxing until his health failed on him, though. But he was a great lover. Matter of fact, he received a presentation. He's 84 years old now. The church recognized him, gave him a belt, in recognition of the great work that he had done in boxing.
Good.
But I was wondering, you mentioned here where boxers rumble, rise, and become royalty. Now, I suppose royalty would be the big purse.
It would be the championship, and we would have several classes. I mean, you're not going to have a 9-year-old boxing a 16-year-old. unless, of course, it's an 8-foot-tall 9-year-old, but I don't think there are that many around here. Okay. What it is it will be for boys and girls and male and female teens. Mm-hmm. The younger ones were not so much going to have to fight for a championship. That can get a little traumatic.
Okay.
But we'll teach them skills. They will have fights among themselves and exhibitions. And the night that the final fight occurs, each one of them will be recognized as a winner because all children are winners. I like kids. Right. The other things, there will be boxing matches between them until you get to a championship. Again, weight classes, age, and, sexes. And the winner will receive a purse. We're working on that, getting monies ready for that. I'm afraid they won't end up with $200 million, but something nice and recognition locally.
Well, that's a long-range goal.
That's a long-range goal. But we'll also, what we want to do, there'll be a series of TV shows with this. And I think you noticed Brandon Blake, I believe, our executive producer, produced Rugrats, and Barry Zivan, my employer, has a Telly and 3 Emmy nominations. Telly for the documentary on Indian lands that Sam Donaldson narrated in 2006. And what they will do is have a series of shows showing the neighborhood of some of the boxers, letting them show off their talents and how they're being coached, and just a little bit of background. So from them and their families, you can see that these are human beings, not mercenaries or studs. We want to help the children, and I'm hoping that the publicity will help the North Chicago area. This area North Chicago doesn't have a pharmacy, not a public pharmacy.
Right.
Doesn't have a grocery store. Maybe a little more focus on North Chicago and the good people in it, and those things can happen.
North Chicago is a great position. It's right near the lake, and just a perfect community that we could have a lot of upstarts. For example, a few weeks before you came, there was a Jim Hutzel came in introducing football. He wanted to have, North Chicago at one time, I think it was a Flames football team they used to have, and a great opportunity for youngsters to participate, but he needed community support to get it. And we had a TV show. We had a TV show and trying to promote it for him. But he lived out west, right? And then we had a Lake Forest Bank employee came in and wanted to do tennis, teach kids how to play tennis, and the possibilities were so great. And now you here with football, trying to get North Chicago back. So it's something about North Chicago that draws people here. But what is it? Is it the leadership or something, community support, that we just can't punch a button, wave that magic wand to make it go? So I'm looking at boxing. I'm looking for somebody coming in with academics, and we're low on the scale as far as academics are concerned. We have a heavy dropout rate and so forth. But how can we get, when boxing improves, you have academic part of the program that will help them academically?
Well, boxing, I think I mentioned it in the night I made my presentation. Boxing improves hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
It will help the young boxer understand how anatomy works. Okay, that doesn't mean it'll replace Gray's anatomy, but it will give that young child a good sense of anatomy. The child will also learn how to be effective without being lethal.
Okay.
And that's a very important skill. Sportsmanship, because sportsmanship goes into communications. And I've seen many a good deal flounder because whoever was presenting it didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about being, slick. You don't have to be the slickest person in the world. But you do have to be able to give a heartfelt, succinct presentation. Boxing will help in that because the kids will learn those kinds of constraint and sportsmanship. As for academia, one of the ways that boxing would help is perhaps when we set up this program, we work a little bit with the schools.
Okay.
I'll start that off right now. I'm a historical bum. My fields run from the ancient world, atri ides kudista anaxandron Agamemnon, that's the salutation of Agamemnon in the Iliad, to the modern day. I've also taught political science. I'll be happy to help anybody who needs help in those fields.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Judith Rae Ross, a doctor, Chicago liaison, Raw to the Ring, Midwest political strategist, Traditions and Hope Incorporated. Ms. Ross, tell us about your activity as a Midwest political strategist.
It's a lot of watching and waiting and then trying to take advantage of the situations that are there to set up the activities that Tradition and Hope wants to do. In a nutshell, Traditions and Hope is a part job training program, part ecological. We are avidly green, part ecological and part teaching. Mm-hmm. We came to North Chicago in part because I believe they have some school buildings, and we like the people. The contacts we had were always very good, even when they were phone conferences and the like. Mm-hmm. And what we would do is perhaps help some of the area of people who have to cook how you use vegetables and fruits and protein sources in such a way that the meal would be delicious. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. At the same time, it would be good for you. There's some very old ones. Good old rice and beans can be made right. It's absolutely delicious. Edamame beans are very good. They're soy.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, North Chicago is open for all types of programs. That was a Chris Kennedy. I don't know whether you heard of him or not, from Chicago.
I know Chris Kennedy.
Oh, you know him. He's the son of the late Robert Kennedy,
yes.
Attorney General. Top Box Foods, that he came to North Chicago, he made a presentation to get it going. So working with him, I guess, would be an asset too, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, I am not exclusive. If somebody wants to set up a football team, maybe it could all be part of one big sports program that could be also a training program for some of the high school kids.
Oh, yeah.
Not everyone, and I'm not saying college. College you can sometimes overrate. Mm-hmm. A good entrepreneur, a good tradesperson. Mm-hmm. Well, please, the most important person in my world when things go wrong is my plumber.
Okay.
So these are important.
Now, have you talked with Ben Martindale, the superintendent of schools?
No, I haven't. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, they could check with, see if he can put in the curriculum there.
Yeah.
Would be a great...
No, we can do things like that. I've supervised interns before.
Okay.
And it's remarkable what kids can do.
This is fantastic. I'm so, they say the Lord works in mysterious ways, and we have all these people with expertise coming in, want to see North Chicago grow. But people that I talk to say we need the leadership in the city to coordinate all these. Look here, we got Top Box Foods, we got the football, the person want to come in, we got tennis, coaches, and now you coming here with boxing. But we need a coordinator, someone to coordinate all these programs, and we could become the one of the leaders, not only in the county, but the state, you know.
Yes, you could. And it would be also the kind of program, even though they're cutting back at state funds on the state, that somebody would look at and say, look what the people did.
Yeah.
They have taken this and done it on their own out of the goodness of their hearts, and maybe that's the way to get funds.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that every week Raw to the Ring would have would showcase, you know, young boxers, the training programs, the coaches, neighborhoods. Of course, you have to get the community involved with it. And families, make it pull the families closer together, too.
Yes, It should be a family sport. Mm-hmm. It should be something that the families can they can help each other. They can come and cheer whomever their fighter is, and they can get to know other families. And sometimes the funniest things happen when a family gets together, and one of them drops that they're looking for something, and sure enough, the other family has it, and they start sharing, and suddenly you get a more close community. You know, I know Great Lakes Naval is here.
Yeah, it's right next door. Yeah.
Great Lakes Naval can't share their pharmacy. They can't share their groceries. That's actually against the law.
Yeah, it's a benefit for the military people.
But it's not a benefit for the community at large. And I'm not trying to knock the Navy. I happen to have a high regard for our Navy.
Yeah, I retired from civilian employee of the Navy, so I can vouch for the Navy also.
But maybe with a little bit more work and a batch of new programs, there may even be a way of cooperation in some case. My employer at Traditions and Hope, the president, Gene Chase, is an old naval submariner. And he says, as a sailor, he can talk Navy.
Okay, right. You know, I'm really excited about you there because you're, in addition to having a PhD in history, you published over 1,000 articles.
Yes.
You held political office for 21 years. Yeah. You know, we didn't talk about that. And you've been listed in 6 Who's Who for her work in academia, education, politics, and the media.
Yeah.
So you are a person definitely that Lake County should know.
Well, I'm here.
So where do we go from here? How do we get started? Now, people hearing this presentation say, well, I want to get on board. And so how would they contact you and what do you expect of them?
Well, they can contact me either through the mayor's office, or there are 2 telephone numbers. Because my employers are each about 400 miles away, I do a lot of work on Skype, computer, and phone. Okay. And I have my mobile numbers, my mobile number and my home office number. And that's my business email address on the materials I gave you. And they can contact that way if they wish to. And as for the other, I'm meeting with some people this week to see where the next step goes. Okay. I got the impression from the mayor and aldermen that at least people were interested. Mm-hmm. And so we're taking it to the next steps. And I'm hoping if we can get a facility or a part of a facility and a little more support, that in the next few months we'll be having our first boxing matches.
And here you talk about male and female boxers, different ages, weight classes, and so forth.
Yeah, there's no reason. I mean, it's an old stereotype that the woman is like Talia Shire, who hugged Rocky at the end of the first Rocky movie. There's nothing wrong with Talia Shire or interested fans and that, but there are women who can box. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And why not?
They're talents they haven't used.
Yes, it's a talent that you don't think of a woman using, but I'll bet there's more than one woman that has taken a swing and landed something if she were cornered in this world.
This is fantastic. You mentioned about location, but there's several empty school buildings that may be available if you contact the superintendent.
Yes, I have spoken to someone at I'm trying to remember, the Department of Ed, and they pointed me to a building that they were selling to the Park District. I'm not sure the Park District.
Yes, that's right. Novak King.
Yeah.
School there on Lewis Avenue.
On Lewis Avenue. It's just right when I go to the City Hall. I usually pass that on the way in.
Yes.
Lewis. Yeah.
So actually, location is there, and you say you're working now about community contacts.
Community contacts and trying to, so it isn't just the project of about 3 or 4 people. There are a group of people here that work on Royalty of the Ring who are very involved in communities. I have I think on the second page of my sort of handout, I have the mention of the person who thought it up, the producer, the executive producer, and legal attorney to make sure it stays perfect. And also we have my friend, long colleague, Richard Reeder, who's an expert on communities in these areas. In fact, he published a book on that. And my boss, who does media. So there are more than one person working on it, and we always welcome more. We are not here, except in the ring, to compete. We're here because we want to develop something, and North Chicago seems like an ideal place to do it.
Oh, yes. As I mentioned before, Jim Hutzel came in and made a presentation to the city council concerning football. We had a Lake Forest employee, I forgot his name there, but he was interested in tennis, and he brought his skills to try to get tennis going.
Just an aside, history aside, tennis is a very old sport. Henry VIII was a very good tennis player.
Okay.
Till he gained the weight.
Fantastic. Chris Kennedy of Top Foods, and you mentioned about that you know him, and that would be a great opportunity to unite. So actually, it's a teamwork involved here, to really put North Chicago in the map more than just the other things we hear about, and that's the burglarizing and shootings and so forth. Here's some positive things that that will put North Chicago in the limelight. It's a good thing. So may want to attract people to come to North Chicago.
It would probably attract people. It might help bolster somewhere in North Chicago. There's a young man or a young woman with the idea of starting a business.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And it seems to me that, some of the big corporations that they talk about attracting people, some of them are too big to succeed, let alone too big to fail. That small and medium businesses are the way to develop, because every one of them usually hires somebody and trains. So you can get some very good job training. You can work with the city can work with the small and medium-sized businesses perhaps to help to provide that. You can get a program with the high school or the college that would work toward either an MBA, well, not an MBA immediately, but a business track that would get you in. So a little bit of publicity might just be, I don't know, the tinderbox that will light it so that you can have more development of small and medium-sized. And those small and medium-sized, once they develop well, they set a whole new economic climate to an area.
Thank you very much again, Judith Rae Ross, a PhD, Chicago Liaison, Royalty of the Ring, Midwest Political Strategist, Traditions, and Hope, Incorporated. We want to thank you very much for coming in again and to talk to Lake County about Royalty of the Ring. And is it mind if I give you a number right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
847-673-7728. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to another awareness session on Community Focus My name is Dr. Wardell Brooks, Sr., your host.